And good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of JMU Sound Off. I am Jonathan McNamara, coming to you from Richmond, Virginia. As always, we've got a big show tonight. For starters, we're going to have a great group from JMU Men's Soccer, a great start to the season for the Dukes, coming off of two big wins. First of all, over number 14 in the country, and then a win yesterday at Liberty. So we're going to have a conversation with the Men's Soccer Dukes to give you an update on how their season's going and to look forward to what is a gauntlet in the Sun Belt for the Dukes. Then we're going to have a conversation with Phil Cockrell. If anybody has ever thrown a streamer at Bridgeforth Stadium, you have Phil to thank, as well as some other Dukes who came together to bring that tradition back to life after it had started at the Convocation Center with JMU basketball. So that will be a great discussion. And then we're going to look to the game this Saturday for JMU football as the 2-0 Dukes head down to UNC Chapel Hill to battle the Tar Heels. And we're going to welcome in the guys from the Heel Brothers podcast to get the UNC perspective. So as always, really appreciate our guests for joining us tonight's episode, as always, sponsored by the Montpelier Collective. If you are following the Montpelier Collective social accounts, a big announcement made this afternoon that we're going to show you later in the show. There was an exclusive suite opportunity for the homecoming game. We know that tickets are going to be hard to come by for that game on October 26th. So if you're somebody who's going to be attending the Friday Night Flights event that is coming up, you're going to have an opportunity to bid on this suite. That includes tickets for 20 people, as well as a cash bar that's on the sidelines, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to really enjoy a game at Bridgeforth from a really unique vantage point. So for more information about that, MontpelierCollective.com. I want to thank our friends from Skyline Financial Partners. Where's Woody? Looking forward to seeing Mike Norwood and the team from Where's Woody down at UNC this weekend. Going to be bringing some new merchandise from his team. Our friends from Talent Corp, as well as YourPurpleNation.com. Lots of exciting things happening in Your Purple Nation, the two new stores in both Northern Virginia and Richmond, and a Your Purple Nation location coming to Virginia Beach soon as well. And then finally, our friends from Shoker Enterprises. And with that, we're going to bring on the other hosts of JMU Sound Off briefly just to say hello, guys. A bye week for JMU football. I know a lot of us had a few things going on to kind of rest and recover, getting ready for the gauntlet. It is the rest of the season. I'll toss it to you, Taylor. How'd you spend the bye week?
This is one of those few weeks, where you're not at a game, so you actually get to kind of chance to look around the college football landscape. So I had fun watching some other games that I normally wouldn't. Ended the night with some guys over at the house, had a fire in the backyard, and the TV fired up for both the App State ECU game and the ODU Virginia Tech game. One was fairly interesting at the end. One I thought might be interesting, but Virginia Tech finally got their first win in Norfolk after 3 tries. So a good night overall, but yeah, just enjoyed watching some college football and not really having to worry about the outcome of a JMU game.
Awesome. Steve, I know you headed up to Harrisonburg, got a chance to take in the JMU volleyball game. How was your trip up to Harrisonburg? I know you also got to interact with some of the JMU lacrosse players that were in attendance.
Yeah, great atmosphere. If you get a chance to go to the volleyball game, it was a blast. I got my new volleyball hat on. It was full and loud, and so they even had third down scary Duke dog eyes for different things, and they did a wonderful job. First point of the game, they're throwing stuff in the crowd. First block of the game, JMU decided, they really started playing well once their middles went up and started blocking higher up. If you don't know anything about volleyball, basically, if you block higher up, when it comes off your fingertips, it'll bounce back to the person behind you who can set it. If you don't block higher up, then it hits off your fingertips and goes out of bounds, and they get the point. So once we decided to do that and go higher up, we started to dominate a really good high point team. Good roundup yesterday in terms of sports, and actually this weekend for JMU. We'll talk about it later, but we won in almost every category we were playing in this weekend. So had a blast with the lacrosse women. The entire lacrosse team was there cheering, and we're leading different cheers, and it was a blast just to watch other athletes supporting the other athletes.
Awesome. And Michael, based on the Slack chat we're in, I have a feeling there was not a college football game this weekend you did not watch. Just how'd you spend the bye?
Yeah, I was going to say, people that know me probably know that this was probably like the most open weekend until the end of college football. So we decided to paint our kitchen, which was cool. So for some fun home activities.
The ceiling a little bit too. So somebody was doing that in your house.
Yeah. We're mixing it up a little bit. So shout out to my brother-in-law for coming in on Saturday. So kitchen looks immaculate, by the way. So I'm really proud of that. But yeah, I got to watch a little bit of college football. So some really interesting scores. I think we all enjoyed Thursday night with Texas State with a little close show against Arizona State. A little bit of a connection there. And then UNLV beating Kansas, interesting W. And then a future opponent, Ball State losing to Miami 62-0. And then I think Taylor mentioned the App State game, barely beating ECU 21-19. And then Georgia State taking down the Hokie Killers in Vanderbilt, or beating Vanderbilt in Atlanta. But here's the big one, John. If anyone was watching very closely Saturday night college football, we're all thinking of the same question. Is Gardner-Webb the best 0-3 team in the country?
I'm going to say yes.
That's what we're all thinking about, right?
There you go. And the Indiana
losing. Oh, yeah, and they won too, right? I think so. They look good. JMU looked good Saturday night. Let's say that.
JMU North. Awesome, guys. Well, we'll get back to you guys in a few minutes. We're going to get right to what is always a fun segment as a part of our show. We are so grateful for our partnership with the Montpelier Collective, and tonight's spotlight for the Montpelier Collective Athlete Spotlight will go to JMU Men's Soccer. And with that, we are really excited to bring on the head coach of JMU Men's Soccer, as well as a group of Dukes who represent us each and every week on the field for James Madison Soccer. It has been a great start to the season for the Dukes, again, coming off of 2 big wins. Coach, first of all, thanks for spending some of your Sunday night with us here on JMU Sound Off. First of all, Coach, just to the fans who may not be as familiar with you, you've been at JMU now for going on a decade. First of all, introduce yourself, and then I'm going to let you kick it around to the players so that our fans can get a chance to meet some of the stars who are on the field for the Dukes each and every week representing JMU.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thanks for having us. We really appreciate this exposure, and you guys are doing a great job. And we're just fortunate to be on here and tell a little bit of our story and what we're doing within the men's soccer realm. So appreciate that. I'm Paul Zazinski, the head men's soccer coach here. I've been the head coach for about 7 years, but been at JMU going on my 10th season, came in as assistant and worked my way up. We've had some success, went through transitions from the CAA to the Sun Belt Conference, and are just plugging away, trying to represent the program and the history of our program in the highest way. And I think our guys that are here tonight do that in every which way. And I think the great thing about tonight is we've got a good mix of players, some younger guys that are freshmen, some older guys that have been around the block and know kind of how the landscape has shifted in recent years and have a comparison. So it's a great group. I'm excited to introduce them, and we're excited to be here and, like I said, tell our story. So I can kind of kick it around, and
awesome.
Guys, if you just want to tell everybody your year and where you're from and kind of anything that you think would be interesting. Let's start out with Milo Ray.
Yeah, I'm Milo Ray. I'm a freshman from Portland, Oregon. I'm a midfielder, and so far JMU, just in the short time I've been here, I've loved it so far.
Yeah, Milo is one of the 7 freshmen that we have this season, and one of the other freshmen is Justin. Take it away.
Hi, my name is Justin Namorato. I'm from Richmond, Virginia, and I am a freshman defender. And I think so far JMU has been one of the best experiences of my life. So
awesome. Thanks, Justin. Another in-state player. Let's go to Jeffrey.
What's up, guys? I'm Jeffrey Aguilar. I'm from Alexandria, Virginia, so not too far from here. I'm a sophomore, and yeah, just love the team here. Great team we have, and yeah.
Perfect. And another in-state player from Northern Virginia, Sebastian Conlon.
Yeah, hey guys, my name is Sebastian Conlon. I'm from Reston, Virginia. I'm a junior. I've been here for just over 2 years now. Had a blast being here, working with Coach Paul and getting good results, and we're looking forward to a good year.
And last but not least, we have Josiah, who's been around for a while, dating back to the COVID years. So Joey's a seasoned veteran. Take it away, Joey.
Yeah, how you guys doing? My name is Josiah. I'm from Roswell, Georgia. I play center back and left back, and it's been a great experience here at JMU, and there's been a lot to learn, as well as seeing JMU grow as well. So
Awesome. Well, thanks guys for spending some of your time and for introducing yourselves to the fan base. Coach, I was going to ask you to start off this discussion. The move to the Sun Belt has been incredibly positive for the entire JMU athletic community, but the JMU Sun Belt experience for men's soccer is different than the way our football program is, for example, because the teams look a little bit different. To fans who aren't as familiar with Sun Belt soccer, this is now one of the top conferences in the nation in terms of the talent and the names of the schools that are in there. So give fans a little insight into what this transition has been like, and to some of the names that are in this conference that make each and every week really a gauntlet as you go throughout the regular season, but also preparing you for hopefully a run in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, the Sun Belt is one of the perennial conferences in men's soccer. Last year, actually, there was the number 1, 2, and 3 ranked teams in the entire country came out of the Sun Belt. And we were fortunate to be one of 5 teams, I believe, in the Sun Belt to make the NCAA tournament as well. So the competition is through the roof. But what is unique and what some fans and people don't know about kind of what we're doing and who we're playing against is, in the Sun Belt Men's Soccer Conference, we have affiliate memberships. So we have the likes of Kentucky, we have West Virginia, South Carolina, and those Power Fours are hard to beat, and it makes it competitive. And that goes along with the Sun Belt teams such as Marshall and Coastal Carolina. So we have a ton of teams and a ton of quality, and there's a lot on the line every single night, and we bring in guys that embrace that challenge. So no question, the Sun Belt is a challenge, but we're fortunate to be playing in it, and it's been a good experience so far. The first year that we made the transition, we were fortunate enough to make the Sun Belt Championship in the tournament, and we lost out in that game. And then last year, really finished strong at the end of the season and got into the NCAAs, which is always one of our goals. So, really, really positive experience to date being in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, to any of the players on here, maybe Josiah, you've been here for the longest period of time. From your perspective, or anybody who wants to touch on it, what has it been like from a player perspective to each and every week challenge yourself against, as Coach said, number 1, number 2, number 3 in the country every time you're on the pitch?
That is actually a great question. It's a lot different compared to my freshman and sophomore year, being able to play each team and having just to go through it and struggle from first minute to 90th minute. It's been a big difference, I think, but it's helped us grow. It's helped us in the mid-season play against other teams, and I can tell that everybody on our team is up to the challenge. So.
Awesome. Guys, I want to ask you, this is to the players as well, and Coach, if you want to touch on it, we'd love to hear your perspective. The term everything school really gained a lot of attention last year with the success of not only football and basketball, but the run that you all made, as well as our lacrosse program, softball program. So many of the representatives in their sport at JMU getting not only success at the conference level, but the national level. I'm curious to say, anybody who wants to touch on this, do you understand, you embrace that motto in terms when you see the other programs at JMU getting national mentions, college game day on campus? Kind of speak to how that motivates you all to carry that kind of torch on the national scene when you're playing these top name programs that maybe have a larger national brand, but you're starting to see the JMU brand creep into that discussion on a weekly basis when our programs continue to make noise on the national level.
Sebi, you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I got that one. I think it's a blessing, and we see, the other teams around campus a lot: football, basketball, baseball, and we all know each other very well. So, we use that as motivation to just, show up every day to training, and knowing that, the next game is going to be a tough one. We're playing ranked opponents now, and to put JMU on a national level and to be a part of that is something that's really special that maybe wasn't once there, but now is from all across the board. And we're blessed to be a part of that.
And guys, you have a big game this weekend on Saturday coming up against UCF. This is your first, conference game at home, and a chance to fans to really see this program and embrace it as you again make your way through the gauntlet. To the coach or any of the players, that you talk about the fan support that you're receiving out at Centera, where we're hearing crowds of over 800 coming to see you all in that stadium, and to make it an environment that not only gives you all the energy you need to compete at the highest level, but makes it tough for those opponents who make their way to Harrisonburg.
Yeah, so in the last couple of years, we've really done a great job to get fans out to Centera, and last year was our highest average since in my time in the 10 years at 850 people per game, and we couldn't appreciate that support anymore because it helps drive us to win. And we play for those people that show up. So we love it. We want to continue that trend. And if Milo, maybe you kind of give it your experience coming in as a freshman and feeling that environment for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I've only been here for a couple of home games, but so far the support has been amazing. And just to know that like there's excitement around campus, and then as well when you're warming up, you see the fans rolling in. It's just great to have that support.
And then, Coach, I was going to give you a chance because this is a Montpelier Collective Spotlight, where our goal really through this program, JMU Sound Off, is to raise awareness about kind of the changing landscape of college athletics, and how fans now can have more of a role than they ever have before in investing in the success of your program as well as the other programs on campus. Maybe speak to from you as a coach, though, seeing this transition, and what would your message be to fans who are considering making a donation to the Montpelier Collective to help you continue to maintain your success and grow this program as you continue to compete against the top teams in the country?
Yeah, one of the things, I mean, we still don't know exactly what a lot of the landscape is going to shake out to look like in the future. So the one thing that we do know is that we really need the support of the fans and the alumni base to continue to drive our program forward. And I think because of the what we had mentioned about the Sun Belt and the affiliates, they're driving a lot of revenue. They're driving a lot of donations, and that's something that we'd like to match and really kind of get into that market. And we really haven't tapped that source yet, and I think that's why we're on here, right? It's really not been a focal point in recruiting, but it will become a focal point, and it's something that we really need to put some focus into. And we ask that you support us in any way that you can, because there's no amount of donation that's too small. Anything helps. And it goes all the way from NIL to just helping on a daily operations and just helping drive our program forward. So anything that you can give is certainly welcomed and appreciated.
Yeah, and again, to fans watching this, or if you're listening on the audio broadcast, MontpelierCollective.com. And over the coming weeks, JMU Men's Soccer is going to be really giving you an inside look into this program with some content to take you behind the scenes of what it's like to be a student athlete on this program. Probably going to see some of the faces that are on this screen as well. And this is just, again, our way of leading with transparency, but also trying to bring you closer to these great faces who wear purple on the pitch every week, and it's just a great way to continue to build understanding and awareness about the need for support as we continue to grow into the future. Last question to you, Coach. You've got some big games coming up on the season. Your message to fans who may make their way out to Centera, whether they've been to multiple JMU soccer games or they've never been to one in the past. What impact can that make as you go throughout the Sun Belt season?
The fan support is massive. I mean, it really drives us. And I think one thing I would say is, soccer, a lot of times there can be, 0-0 draws. There can be very few goals, but we play an exciting brand, and we really want to, have people come out and see that. And I think, we've even had maybe even some of my neighbors or friends that, weren't soccer fans. They show up to a game and they're hooked, they come back. So we're really wanting to see new students, new people within the community show up in waves and generate some momentum that, breeds into our players and their successes and our program success. So absolutely, we welcome anybody and everybody out to Centera. We've got some extremely high level matches coming up, and we need all the support from the local community, the JMU community, to continue to keep this ball rolling. No pun intended.
Awesome. Well, guys, we end every one of these segments the same way, simply with a thank you. There's a lot of sacrifice that goes into being a student athlete. You guys, not only do amazing things on the pitch, but you do incredible work in terms of your community support, through your community service in the community. We've seen that on your accounts and the individual accounts that are out there as well, because we know part of your work with the collective as well is to really invest in the community, but that's also a part of the culture of JMU men's soccer. But we know there's a lot of practices early mornings, a lot of sacrifices you make, and you give us all something to talk about and something to cheer on each and every week. And we're really grateful to your contributions to JMU athletics, but really to the university as a whole. You guys are kind of the best of JMU in action. That's the front porch of this university, and we're going to be cheering you on as you go throughout the rest of the season. So we wish you guys all the best this season as we head towards hopefully another Sun Belt championship and another run into the NCAA tournament. So thanks, guys, and we'll talk to you guys soon. And before we get to our next segment, we're going to hear from an ad from the Montpelier Collective. We mentioned it in the early part of this segment. There was an exclusive opportunity to enjoy a game on the sidelines this homecoming on October 26th.
Hey Dukes fans, have you ever wanted to enjoy a JMU football game from the sidelines of Bridgeport Stadium? Well, the Montpelier Collective has an exclusive opportunity for you to enjoy an on-field suite located by the Athletic Performance Center in the corner of the end zone on the visitor side for the homecoming game on October 26th for Southern Miss. This suite will include tickets for 20 people as well as a cash bar featuring beer and wine. And again, all proceeds for this event will go to support the mission of the Montpelier Collective to keep teams at James Madison competitive at both the top of the Sun Belt and on the national stage. This exclusive opportunity will be auctioned off at Friday Night Flights on September 27th. So for more information about this opportunity, visit MontpelierCollective.com. Once again, MontpelierCollective.com. Go Dukes.
All right. Well, as we move into our next segment, there's been a lot of talk this year about the 20th anniversary of the national championship team from 2004 for football. But what a lot of people may or may not know is that it's also the 20th anniversary of streamers at football games. This is a tradition that has become synonymous with JMU football. It's involved in our orientation. It's involved with graduation. It's on every piece of marketing collateral that JMU puts out there. And we wanted to bring on someone tonight that is the one of the fans, one of the alumni, one of JMU's own, that kind of spearheaded this movement with a small group of JMU fans back in 2004, the season of the national championship, but prior to winning the national championship. And I think it's just a story that needs to be told. A lot of people probably assume rightly that this is there is a connection to the Electric Zoo days, but there was a gap between the Electric Zoo days of basketball and when this tradition started. So with all that, I'd like to bring on Phil Cockrell to join us tonight on JMU Sound Off. Phil, it is so good to see you. We got to catch up earlier this week. How are you doing? Introduce yourself and tell us who you are.
Doing well. I appreciate you having me on. Just another JMU fan. I graduated in '85 when there was so much excitement around the basketball program, and I lived through all the years with Lefty, and there's just always been such great fan support at JMU, and I've always wanted to do things to try to increase that. I've worked with Nick Langridge a lot through the years. He used to be with the Student Duke Club, and he would help me do some ideas I had. I've done some car flags one year. I did some TVs, big screen TVs for about 10 of the basketball games. I've just tried to do things that would promote excitement, and I think those paid dividends down the road for JMU.
Well, and there's a lot of people that graduated when I was at school in the 03 to 07 era, and some that predate that and some that postdate that. A lot of people knew you not as Phil, but they knew you as Dukester. Now, yeah. Tell us why they knew you as Dukester and what the connection is to that online community and how that kind of led into the idea for the streamers.
Well, you can Google the message boards for JMU, but to this day, they still exist. And it's been about 25, 30 years. A bunch of us have been on there, and we've got a lot of new kids. And it's really a lot of fans on there. And, I struggled with one of the things I really wanted is I got frustrated. It used to be fashionable to be late. Socially fashionable to be late at games, and people were coming in halfway through the first quarter of games. And I tried to think of a way that they could get people there earlier. And I brought up on the message board to see what people thought. What about throwing streamers there? Because I remember when we used to do them with JMU and then with Lefty before they got outlawed by the CAA and NCAA. But just seeing all that purple and gold over everybody's head was such an exciting thing. And everybody got to the basketball games early in order to see those. So I thought, wow, why not do that for football? But I knew I couldn't do it by myself. So I talked to people on the message board, and there was a student there, Chris Nolick at the time, who really spearheaded the student side for me. And we came up with the idea. We got about probably 10 to 15 people off the boards that first game. We had 1,000 streamers. JMU knew about it, but wasn't sure what to think about it. Didn't know if it would work. Didn't know if it'd interfere with the game. Didn't know whether it'd be an injury, somebody strip over them going up and down the stairs. But we did it. And, we got a lot of people involved, and it went off great. The DNR had things. The local TV station had some stuff on it, and I thought it was going to go great. But, the first notice I got was, we really liked it and so forth, but we just were concerned about the exposure and so forth. And I said, well, it's the same thing as in basketball. I just think it seemed to be well received. And then later on that afternoon, Nick Langridge and Brad Edmondson, who was the athletic marketing director at the time, called me back and said, Phil, you're a go, but you guys have to jump through a few hoops for us. You got to unwrap all the streamers. We don't want wrappers. Anything that gets thrown, you have to have all your folks go and pick them all up because they don't want anybody tripping over them. And so we did it, and they would limit how much I could donate a game because they didn't want to have too many streamers that were going to be over. So it was like 2,000 a game. I got 3,000 for homecoming. It ended up being a lot of fun, and everybody handed it out. We were pretty anal about it. We tried to hand them out towards the top so that they could be reused. If somebody threw them down, they could be reused on the lower side. And the one thing that was the coolest thing, anybody who was handing out those streamers at those days knows that it doesn't matter if you're a 5-year-old or 70-year-old. I mean, the people loved them. It's like getting something at a game. You don't usually get something, but this is something we could give thousands of winners a game. So, and then there was a story where, we did it all year. We never did it for any of the road games the first year, but we got to the playoffs and went to the selection show. And then we all get disappointed because we had a very good team in 2004, but we started off with a selection going to Lehigh. Well, we left the meeting and Mickey said to Phil, you make sure you bring those streamers to the road games,
right,
to that playoff game. And so I said, sure. So I got a call later on that weekend saying, hey, Phil, just so you know, we appreciate everything you've done, but we just can't do it for the road game. And I said, well, really? I said, well, Mehdi said, I'm sorry. He said, Mickey said, go ahead and bring them. He said, he did? Okay, let me get back to you. So anyway, they got back to me. It was one of those things where, okay, you can do it, but you got to kind of jump through hoops again. So
right,
you can pass them out, you can throw them, but at the end of the game, you got to pick them all up because they don't want to be responsible for picking them up.
Right.
So me and my family and Nick Langridge, we went and picked them all up. And then the game, we went for about an hour, and it just got to be, that's enough. We got as many as we could.
Well, and I think it's also really important to really stress that this was an organic idea that you and a couple of folks, both students, someone in the Alumni Association had, that you spearheaded. This was not an idea that JMU brought to fans and asked you to educate. I mean, it really is one of those grassroots things. And I think that's where so many great traditions in college football and really just across universities in general really spring up where, let's be honest, when you're out there, it's the first game. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did we play Bloomsburg for the first game that year in 2004?
It may have been. I'm not. I don't recall who it was.
But when you're walking into the stadium with that trash bag or those trash bags of 1,000 streamers, I mean, at no point in your mind is this is going to become a thing that is ingrained with every aspect of graduation, orientation, marketing, and something that 20 years later you're on a podcast talking about. So I think that's such an important thing to stress before we kind of get forward and move on to obviously what happens as we go through that playoff run. But do tell us that. So we're going through the playoff run after Lehigh, and eventually we get to William and Mary, correct?
Well, we get to William and Mary, and then one of the things I did envision this going for a long time, and I wanted to do everything. I figured if we could get through the first year, it would take. So I really did go out of my way for that. And at the William and Mary game that in the I think it was the semifinals.
Yes.
It had rained that day, and I was scared that if we threw the streamers, that the dye on the streamers would go onto people's clothes and so forth, and we'd never do them again. And I was out in the parking lot just until like an hour before determining whether to let them go or not. And then it stopped raining, and we went ahead and did it. Well, later on, I noticed it says the dye doesn't run. If you look at the packages on streamers, it says the dye doesn't run, but I never noticed that. But we were always concerned that would happen, and just something like that would throw it off, and we wouldn't be able to do it anymore. But we carried them in, and William and Mary allowed us to bring them in. We brought them in. And then, we took it to all the road games. We took them to Furman, and then we took them to the national championship. When we got there, I purchased 5,000 streamers and actually had to get a hotel room to store them all. There were so many boxes in there. It filled up a whole room all the way to the ceiling, all the way around the king bed. and then when JMU found out I did that, they actually picked up the room, so that's quite nice of them. But that was fantastic. And, we had a really good time. So,
so from there, you're giving the money basically to fund all the purchase of these streamers, which you and I talked about. Streamer inflation has also hit the economy. So they're a little pricier today than they were back then, but still, I mean, you're talking of tens of thousands of streamers over the course of a season. And, so walk us through, because one of my walk us through kind of how the next couple of seasons evolved and how JMU kind of embraced it. And then I kind of want to get eventually to that 2008 Richmond game that you and I talked about earlier this week.
So the first year we did 20,000 streamers. And at the end of the year, Nick Langridge had called me up and said, by the way, I want to give out the shout to Nick, and hopefully he's strongly considered for the president job here, but guy loves this place, and I'd love to see him the next president. But anyway, back to the streamers. He called me up and said, hey, Phil, I just want you to know we appreciate everything you did and your idea. And next year it's in the budget, so JMU is going to do it going forward. And that really excited me. So the first year I really didn't focus on the home games. On the road games, but I did the second year. So I started bringing them streamers out to the parking lots and handing them out there, giving them to them. And then there are certain places I could hear Mission Impossible going off while he's doing certain things. But I had the band, if they were going to a road game, bring in the bags of streamers, which nobody knew. Then I'd grab them as they got inside the gate. In Richmond, at both stadiums, I ended up throwing them over the fence and then getting them inside the stadium.
Yep.
It's funny. The very first year we did the road streamers, I think in 2005 at the Richmond, I think at Citi Field. They allowed us to. They said, just bring in streamers. Everybody just brought in streamers. There's no big deal. But then they kind of outlawed them, so to speak. So we still got them in.
Yeah, 2008 was the game. I vividly remember, and it might be some of the guys listening here, either Zach Price or Eric Pitzer or somebody was helping receive the bag over the gate.
Yeah.
And this 2008 game, for those that remember, is the infamous, Scotty McGee punt and return. Win the game, and there is a famous picture that's out there that probably has been posted on social media a ton. It's kind of looking down the stands at Richmond, and it is just, it is covered in 2 or 3 inches deep all the way across the stadium in purple and gold streamers, and it's kind of iconic. But I just, I think it's such a cool story. I think a lot of people maybe that were not around 20 years ago may assume that this was something that JMU kind of instituted and kind of pushed on people. But what I really think it's neat is there was, for those that don't even know what a message board anymore is, because it's pre-social media, that we had these online message boards where JMU fans kind of congregated, and you guys kind of, knowing what was in the Electric Zoo days, came together to create this. You went out there, with not really a very strategic plan other than to get them in the hands of people. And I love how you built relationships with Nick Langridge and Brad Edmondson, worked with JMU, and obviously they found such they found so much good in it that they continued it the next year. And now here we are 20 years later, and I think it's funny how one of the biggest complaints, there's this college football game they didn't put out for 10 years, and everyone was so excited for it. And the only complaint, because they did such a great job with putting Bridgeforth and really representing JMU, is people saying, man, I wish the streamers could have been in that game. So I think the streamers is just such a cool history, tradition of JMU, and I thought it was important to bring you on tonight to show everyone kind of the face of that tradition. I know you said there was a couple other people that helped you out. I'll give you a chance if you want to shout some of them out who helped you with that first year.
I definitely do. And number one, I'd like to thank my wife. She allowed us to fill up our garage. I mean, literally full of boxes. We have a 2-car garage we were not able to use for the whole fall. And my son, Philip, he also helped me a ton. On Wednesday, Thursday, Friday nights, we were unwrapping those streamers because we weren't allowed to bring them in streamers and wrappers those days. But one thing you and I talked about that I thought it would be a dream of mine if, the 20-year anniversary or the 25-year anniversary. Imagine if as a promotion one time for a game, they handed every fan who walked in a streamer. Mm-hmm. And when the team came out this one time, have Guinness Book, so it'll be a record. 25,000 streamers all thrown at once. Get them there early, be such a marketing promotion, take all the pictures you'd have for the rest of your life. ESPN would show it. Be such a great thing for the school and such a cool event, and to get everybody there early. The other thing I kind of never understood is why don't they sell streamers at the games? Make some money and have them available to people. I mean, that would be fantastic. It's a win-win situation.
Yeah, if Brandon Sweeney is watching this, I remember Brandon and I went to the local Walmart and said, you got to just put a big tub of these things right in the front, especially those first couple of weeks of school. People would come in. I've never understood why maybe even the bookstore, someone didn't have a tub out there. But I do love the 25,000 streamer idea. It's 2024, so we have 5 years to implement it. I think between you, me, and some of the other folks on this show, we have some contacts that maybe we can start kind of laying that ground and see if it takes here, because I think that would be a really cool way to represent 25,000 people, 25 years of streamers. It would be pretty cool. So, well, Phil, I'll give you the last word. If you have anything else you want to say about the streamers, your time at JMU, or anything you're looking forward to.
I appreciate you guys doing this show. It's fantastic. I think the fans really love it. And I'm so excited as a fan now, what we got going on all over in so many different sports. It's pretty amazing. Coach leaves, gets promoted, and we reload and we come back in. So it's an exciting time to be a Duke. I mean, it's hard to believe we're finally, we're FBS football. Now, if we can finally get one of these Power 4 conferences to come in, that'll be the next step. But it's been pretty good so far. It's hard to imagine it could be much better.
Well, everyone listening or watching this, I just want everyone to know that Phil is one of those handful of JMU fans that over the years has really left his mark on Madison. Phil, I said to you that if I ever hit it rich one day, that I'd love to build a streamer statue outside the stadium in your honor. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, and thank you for kind of telling some of the untold stories of the JMU streamers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Taylor. Have a great night.
All right. And with that, I'm going to bring on Michael and Steve to talk a little UNC football next weekend. Gentlemen, it's all yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Taylor. And with that, it's officially game week. And I know we all love sitting around during bye week and watching football all over the country, but we've got the Tar Heels of UNC on Saturday, I think officially at noon, right, Steve? So we've got an early kickoff on Saturday to take on the Omarion Hamptons of UNC. Yeah. So it'll be a good time. And with that, I want to bring on Nathan.
Their fans won't show up at noon. We'll talk to Nathan about. Right. Hey, brother, are your fans going to show up at noon, or are they going to trail in from all the great places? Like, is Timeout Chicken still in Chapel Hill?
Not that I know of, but they do have a Raising Cane's that they just put in there this past summer. So that's been a pretty popular spot right now for Tar Heel fans everywhere. But they damn well better show up. They let me down last week. They were good against Charlotte a couple of weeks ago, but yesterday, bad showing for the Tar Heel faithful out there.
We'll be there. You'll have a good 5,000-6,000, if not more, of the guys in purple. Michael, you start us off.
Yeah, I was gonna say Jamie knows well how to get down to Chapel Hill. We played y'all in 2011. 2016. And, obviously we've got this game coming up here. So exciting times. Well, Nathan, thank you so much for joining us. Really excited to have you on. I'll kick things off. It's the era of NIL. It's the era of transfer portal. It's the era of roster turnover per se. So I think outside of maybe the top 5% of college football, we're all trying to figure out our teams and our programs. So for our listeners, talk to us at a high level. Like, what's going on at UNC? Like, what's the state of the program today under Mac Brown?
It's actually funny you mentioned this because we actually just reviewed or interviewed a insider for Tar Heel Illustrated, a guy who covers North Carolina football, and talking about the same exact subject, the state of the UNC program. And on an NIL basis, Carolina actually just this past spring and summer announced that they were going to collaborate there and join all of their NIL collectives together to create the Carolina NIL. So everybody is under the same umbrella now. We used to have so many different, organizations that you could donate to, and they had donors had what we call donors fatigue because they were getting called by 28 different people for different teams that Carolina had. And now it's under one umbrella. And right now, North Carolina, under Mac Brown, with the NIL, I got to give him credit. Mac Brown was a guy it's been around for a long time. He's been doing this for a really long time. And, he stepped away from the game after he left Texas, and he comes back right before this whole deal kicks off, the transfer portal NIL, and he comes back in and he adapts to it quickly. And Carolina has done a really good job, in my opinion, of retaining their roster every single year. We've had a few transfers. As a matter of fact, one of them being George Pettaway for you guys over there in JMU. I'm curious to see how he does in purple and gold over there. But North Carolina does one thing and one thing well, and that is retaining rosters. We've never had a mass exodus that you see a lot of people have. And that just doesn't happen. A guy's big time stars, Amarian Hampton being one of them, staying after this year. This guy could have went anywhere in the SEC or maybe even Clemson, or I wouldn't say Clemson because you know how Dabo Swinney is, but FSU for sure. And a lot of big time teams up there in the SEC for multi millions of dollars, no problem if he wanted to. And he had a lot of offers that came his way. Drake May, Cedric Gray, our linebacker. We've had guys that it's honestly kind of beautiful stories, if you will. It's great stories for the program to see these top tier guys that come in, work their way up. Kamen Rucker being another one, and see them not only come in and make a name for themselves. Weren't really highly touted guys outside of Drake and Amari, and they're both 4-star guys. But for them to make a name for themselves, get calls from all the other places in the country and stay, no, I'm staying right here at North Carolina. And I feel like Mac's done a great job with doing that. And the recruiting aspect, Mac Brown's taken an approach where, we're an Ivy League school. I think we can pretty much call ourselves that, to say the least. And, Carolina is a place that wants to find guys that are at Carolina for more than just NIL. If you're here for just NIL, you're probably not going to go to North Carolina. Let's just call it what it is. But he wants guys that wants to come to North Carolina because he wants to be a part of the program, want to be part of the school and what they're building there. And they want to get on the field. They're good players and be developed in the right way. And really in this, for, as Mac Brown calls it, a 40-year decision, not just just a 1-year decision or a couple month decision. It's a 40-year decision. It's painted all over the walls in the Keenan Football Center. So I feel like Mac Brown's done a really good job of handling NIL and handling the transfer portal. And I feel like, to me, I think he has probably one of the best balances of that than a lot of coaches in the country.
Yeah, I think Hubert Davis has done a good job on the basketball side.
Yes,
with NIL, and I met him many years ago. So I was there. So that's why I asked you about Timeout Chicken. That's where I met Davis Love and Michael Jordan.
Oh, nice.
4 o'clock in the morning after drinking at a place called Trolls. I don't know if Trolls is still there. Probably not. So that's where we met him. But I mean, I thought Hubert's done a nice job. I thought Mac has done a great job. And you guys have done a nice job keeping people. Except for George. So we're really happy to have George Pettaway with us. And I guess Caleb Love, took it, but you rarely have people go. And so I was going to ask you too about your biggest challenge, I guess, in football. what have you seen over the last 3 games in terms of the Heels? I know losing your starting quarterback is one of your biggest one, but what's your kind of biggest challenge you see for the football team going into Saturday against JMU?
Quarterback situation has gotten even more interesting as we're now starting our third stringer. The good news is about the third stringer. He is a guy that was recruited by North Carolina. He came to North Carolina back in 2020. He was with the team for multiple years up until Drake May won the job against him in 2022. He played as the true backup to Drake that first year, but last season he transferred back to Arkansas. That's where he's actually from. He's from Arkansas. And he played a little bit there, but ultimately that guy by the name of KJ Jefferson, pretty good quarterback, won that quarterback battle against him. But we're happy to have him back at Carolina. He transferred back to us back in the spring. Max came in early in the portal window. I think he was one of the first names in the portal, and he was like the first name out of the portal too. Like Mac grabbed him instantly like that. A lot of connections with one of our analysts, Clyde Christensen, as well with him. So it kind of just made it easy for him to transition over to Carolina. But yeah, so quarterback position is interesting. We had Connor Harrell as quarterback 2. He was a guy that was in the battle with Max to be QB1 in the offseason. Felt like Max was the better option, the more clean option, if you will. You kind of know who Max is. He's a guy that's played in the SEC for 4 years. He's experienced in all the big time schools. This man's played for LSU and Texas A&M. He's been to the Alabamas and the Georgias of the world. He's played in LSU, not only as a member of the Tigers, but also being an Aggie as well. He's been to these big time arenas and he's performed relatively well. Unfortunately, he had injury problems. You lose him night 1. Connor Harrell comes in. You basically just tell him, just get us through the game, please. Just get us through the game, because they did not have a plan for him. Mac talked about he was going to play 2 quarterbacks coming into the season. That was not the case at all. If you watch that Minnesota game, when Connor came in, it was, oh God, hand the ball off, please, Amari, and save us. And he did. So what Noah Burnett really, our kicker, kicking 2 50-yard field goals really helped a lot, and their kicker missing one. But the Charlotte game comes and Connor gets his first start. He plays, in my opinion, pretty well. And then last night against NC Central, he comes out and looks horrible. Third series, he's out. Jacoby Criswell comes in, and Jacoby looked really poised with the offense. If you listen to some of our insiders, they say that Jacoby Criswell was by far probably your best option at quarterback, but you didn't think he was going to get a chance to show it just because he came in so late in the process, come in spring. And this is a new offensive. We've hired a new offensive.
He looked like a fifth-year guy, though, right? He had that experience, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In that game.
He absolutely has, and he's been in the program before, so he knows how Mac operates. The only thing that put him even farther back is since he left, we changed offensive coordinators. Last year was the first year Chip Lindsey, and when he left, he was under Phil Longo, who had been with us since Mac had returned back in 2019. So he had a lot of catching up to do. But
Jamie knows Longo very well, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Phil Longo was the offensive coordinator at Sam Houston State in 2016. So JMU listeners will appreciate that quote there. But Nathan, appreciate that. I think also a fun fact, Max Johnson, I just learned this week, is Brad Johnson's son, the Super Bowl winning champion from the Tampa Bay Bucks. I didn't know that until a couple days ago.
And as a matter of fact, Max's brother Jake is a tight end for North Carolina now. They came over together from Texas A&M.
Oh, there you go. Look at that.
Family affair.
Which is I was going to ask you, like, outside of Amari and Hampton, right? I was looking at the roster. You've got 2 former head coaches as offensive and defensive coordinator. You've got sort of like a 3-4, 4-2-5 hybrid scheme on defense. What can JMU expect on the defensive side, come Saturday? And maybe share with us some like threats on the offensive side outside of Hampton that I think the whole country knows all about.
Yeah. What can you expect on the defense? Well, as the words of Jeff Collins himself, chaos. He is the minister of mayhem. He got that nickname rightfully so back in his SEC days. He did not pan out very well as a head coach. That is something that he
had a tough gig at Georgia Tech too. I think that was a tough situation in my opinion.
And some typically, if you're a head coach, you've been a damn good coordinator somewhere. And he was. I mean, this guy commanded defenses and just wreaked havoc no matter where he went. Some of the best defenses in the countries in the years that he was defensive coordinator. And when he came in as head coach of the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, kind of in that same exact time frame that Matt came back, kind of getting used to COVID hit, transfer portal, NIL, all of it hit at the same time. And you basically saw a guy that just wasn't experienced in the head coaching sphere. So now he took a year off and he comes back to us as DC. And I'm going to tell you something. North Carolina is a team. If you want to go do you won't have to do very deep dive research. North Carolina's defense over the last couple of years under Gene Chizik has been one of the worst in the country. It has been horrible. I mean, god awful. I can throw on that defense. I mean, that tells you something right there, but yeah, it's not been pretty. And instance 2 years ago, North Carolina's defense is ranked like 112th in the country, and then we're 9-1. So I mean, we've had success on offense, and now we're kind of seeing a little bit of a difference here. But Jeff Collins is a guy. He's going to be physical. His defense is going to be a whole lot more physical than they've ever been. Really, the whole scheme is with Gene Chizik, they made him think about the scheme too much. Bend, don't break. That was a popular headline and slogan for North Carolina's defenses over the last few years. And now it's, hey, just go do your job. Just go do your job. So they're going to be
see ball, tackle ball, right?
Yeah. See ball, get ball, right? And Ted Monachino, who's former defensive coordinator, coached the Terrell Suggs of the world, Khalil Max of the world, in the NFL, has come over as a defensive line coach, and is basically his quote last week, which I thought was a great one, was, "We've taken the rocks out of their pocket," which means they're not thinking, they're just going after it, and they're going to handle their business. So Carolina's defense is going to be physical. The blitzes are going to come from everywhere. You really, it shocks me considering where some of these blitzes are coming from. Safeties are coming downhill out of nowhere. They're going to play tight up against the wide receivers, and they've been one of the best teams in the country so far at stopping the run. So kind of curious to see how George Pettaway and that offensive line is going to handle that as well, because Pettaway, as we know, can get loose and he can go. That kid can scat. So they've got some problems to deal with that there. So Carolina's defense, there's some young guys in the secondary. I expect JMU to try and test some of those young guys, one of them being Caleb Cost. We'll see. He's your young pup. You feel like he's going to be a really good player for you, but this is his first true year playing. So he's getting used to a lot of it, but he felt like he did a whole lot better in the second half of the Central game. He did do really good. He popped for us a little bit there, big time interception as well. But on the offensive side of the ball, Amari Hampton's going to be Amari Hampton. That dude is it's when you first started seeing it, it was shocking, but now it's just normal when he's carrying 6 defenders with him as he goes and scores a touchdown. It's just ridiculously awesome. At that same time. But yeah, so Amari Hampton is going to do his thing. But honestly, I think this is a week that our tight ends are going to be at play. You got Bryson Nesbitt, a guy who could really, he's a hybrid wide receiver, tight end guy, 6'6", big guy, knows how to win those 50-50 balls, knows how to win those battles. John Copenhaver, a great blocker and a guy who can catch a football. He's smooth. He's a big body. Both of these guys are big body. They're hard to bring down. And then we've got some great wideouts that we have some seniored ones, but what's crazy is that the true freshmen are pushing them for playing time right now. So there's a lot of optimism on our offensive side of the ball. There is. Offensive line's playing the best that they have. Now, we did have 2 offensive linemen. Our center, Austin Blasky, out of Georgia. He transferred from us. From Georgia, and also our left guard, Aiden Banfield, was actually a true freshman this year, but playing out of his mind. I think he's the most solid offensive lineman on the team, and that's saying something. So offensive line, you feel like is going to be has been pretty decent. I still haven't scouted JMU completely. That is on my to-do list over the next 24 hours to see what that defensive line's like over there for you guys. So we'll see how the offensive line plays out. But if Criswell is your starting quarterback, honestly, I'm still trying to figure out what this offense is going to look like, because in now 4 weeks, 3 different starters. at quarterback, and I felt comfortable with all of them. So,
well, I was going to ask you what worries you about JMU, but if you haven't scouted us yet, you're probably not really going to know. We've got a dual threat QB.
yeah,
and
it's funny. I actually started scouting him a little bit while when we started this thing. I started writing down some notes, that I do for our previews and predictions, and that Alonzo Barnett third.
Yeah.
Curious to see what he does. Really, he's fascinating to me.
He's a tough one to defend because he throws a great deep ball, and he's really fast. And if you can't contain him, between him and George Pettaway and Ayo Adehi, the other running back, they just ripped up Charlotte in terms of when they decided to, when it kicked into gear, he just took off. Now, it's Charlotte's not you, so it's going to be a little different.
We have our fair share with Charlotte. We definitely have our fair share with Charlotte.
Well, the fighting Biff Poggies, can only go but so long, and then they, it just doesn't go but so. You guys did a nice job, and I watched that tape. I watched them. I've watched all your games, and that's a solid team. That defense. I was hoping for the defense under Gene, but that's not what you've got. And I think it's going to be an interesting game because we've got big defensive linemen, really big offensive linemen, and some big tight ends. So it's going to be an interesting. I think it's going to be an interesting day within Alonzo. I think our two quarterbacks are going to be the difference makers between both of those guys because neither one of us kind of know how that's going to pan out. But watch some more tape on Alonzo. There's not a lot, but that kid's an unbelievable talent, and I think he's going to give you some trouble. But we'll see how that all goes. But at the end of the day, this I think is going to be a fascinating, probably one of the better games because if you look at the one 2000.
Beauty of live production. Came out.
But you guys were loaded in 16, and we got we had the upper hand on you for a very brief period of time, then lost 56-28. So I think it'll be closer than that on Saturday. I think it's going to be a slugfest. I think it's going to go deep into the fourth quarter, and this might end up being kind of a who's going to win this thing with 7 minutes to go. It's kind of how I think this may go.
Yeah, it's going to be a good back and forth game. I think the key of it is going to be how our defense plays, especially in the secondary. You look at the Charlotte game, and Charlotte got 8 big plays on us, and it was just great throws, primarily on guys like Caleb Cost, your young guys. So if the secondary can clean that up out there and keep some pressure on the wide receivers and make them just have to make some, miraculous catches. Got to keep our penalties down. Last game, we committed 16 penalties, 10 in the first half. You cannot do that against anybody and expect to just walk away with a game. That's not good, especially when Mac Brown and the coaching staff have talked about penalties big time coming into the season. They've had ACC reps at all of their practices. You can't have that. So I expect, and Mac Brown really talked about that a lot in his post-game reaction. He's talked about it heavily at how he was very disappointed with that being the case. So that's going to be a point of emphasis this week. And this is going to be a line of scrimmage game, and the running games are going to be on show on Saturday.
Yeah, I was gonna say I totally agree with you. I think Charlotte just big played you guys when you two played, and I feel feel relatively confident. I think Charlotte's DC Ryan Osborne also like a Baltimore Ravens blitz type of guy. So I think I feel a little bit better that we've seen a scheme like that before. I mean, he was blitzing off of different angles and guys were coming in blind. Like it was fascinating to watch, and we big played them there at the end. So it'll be good. I agree with you. It's going to be a line of scrimmage game. We have a lot to see. I mean, we talk a lot at JMU about, the 200 starts we have on the offensive line. We haven't really seen it, come into action just yet. Defensive line, you'll know very quickly. We've got some new guys in there, just like a lot of other programs. So we're fitting in a lot of new pieces. So I feel very fortunate coming out of a bye week. But I think we'll talk more about that tomorrow too. I think also on your show tomorrow night. So I'm really excited for that. Nathan, and once again, thank you again. I've got one more question for you that's a little bit off topic from this Saturday's matchup. There's been a lot of talk at JMU about scheduling, waiting for a P2 opponent to come to JMU and play us at Bridgeforth. It's been well versed seeing what's going on in North Carolina with the App State UNC matchups. I think NC State just got out of the App State game. There's a lot of, the Sun Belt, ACC. I'm just curious to hear like your thoughts about that whole dynamic and playing in state schools. And you saw the App State ECU game last night. Be curious, like what's the tone on your side of the table here?
Well, what's funny is there is a running now. If there's one thing that North Carolina fans and East Carolina fans have in common when it comes to NC State is that they both clown NC State because they won't play one of those teams like App or ECU. They won't play them. They won't touch them at all for some reason. They just won't do it. They'll play Western Carolina at home and dang near almost get big too, which I thought was just hilarious.
Go to Hell State. Go to Hell State. We agree with you there.
Yes, absolutely, yes. Oh man, I like you guys already. Oh man, but no, I'm gonna tell you something, man. The 3 North Carolina App State games took years off my life. I'm not gonna lie. Absolutely took years off my life because, dude, the back and forth. We know how App State plays. App State's a team that you can't mess around with. ECU has had teams at times that you can't mess with them either. As a matter of fact, ECU's got a three game win streak on us, and that's sad to say. It's really sad to say. They caught us at a great time. I'll put you that way. The downfall of our program was right there. But no, I think it's good to play your in-state teams. I enjoy playing the Charlottes of the world, NC Central. Some cool things that we got to see out of last game. Matter of fact, Alan, the other half of the Hill brothers, was at the NC Central game, and getting to see the bands play together. HBCU, we got to honor them, and the bands got to play together, and they put on a big show for everybody, and stuff like that. It's fun. They did collab hospital visits at the North Carolina Hospital right before I think it was Friday or Thursday. They did that. You get to see that on the App State side, or the Charlotte side. We're doing a home and home series, and we're playing them in Jerry Richardson next year. We're going to be at that game. It's going to be a fun time. It's going to be a fun experience, and getting to bring football in the state of North Carolina to the main stage, man. And I've enjoyed it personally. I would have loved to have been at App State when they played up there in Boone. To see the game that it was. I don't know if I would have made it out of that stadium, but it's just fun to see teams that are right down the road from each other playing each other on the big stage. Gets the showcase, and so far they've been pretty fun games. All of them have been.
Well, Nathan, we know a little thing or two about teams not wanting to play us again because we don't think UVA is going to ever schedule us probably ever again. So definitely not making the trip over the mountain to Harrisonburg anytime soon. I hope to be wrong on that point. But Nathan, we just want to say thank you for joining us. We look forward to returning the favor with you guys tomorrow. What makes this show great is that we get the perspective from the other side, and not sure how the outcome will be on Saturday, but I hope it's a good experience for all the JMU and UNC fans together. I've made the trip down there twice before and had a blast each and every time. I've always found your fan base to be incredibly welcoming, and it's a gorgeous campus. You guys are lucky to be affiliated with such a proud university, and we wish you guys luck not only this weekend, but we'll be cheering you on as we do with every one of our opponents. We want you to be successful after the game you play us. So last point of the night, Nathan, anything for people who can follow you guys and what content do you have planned for this week leading up to Saturday?
Oh man, as a matter of fact, I was actually doing my scheduling right before we even we got onto this. I normally typically do that on Sundays myself, but man, we're on YouTube, the Heel Brothers on YouTube, also on Twitter as well as at Heel Brothers. Me and my brother, man, this is a family thing. Our grandfather got us into this many moons ago, and he's the reason that we are here and that we're Carolina fans. So in a way, this is kind of a way to kind of honor him and everything. Trying to get him on sometime soon. I think that's something we're trying to do for sure. But typically on game weeks, what we like to do is, number one, we like to do the scouting report. That's where you guys are coming in, where we bring in an opponent of each team that we face and let them give us a scouting report in a sense, ask them questions about their team. What can we expect about the team coming in, and give our fan base an opportunity to learn about the opponent that we have coming in each week. And then on top of it, there's a lot of things that we do. I like to do each week the key takeaways from Mac Brown's press conference that he has, kind of talking about the previous matchup, previewing up what this week will be JMU. I like to talk about that some as well. Then we do our preview prediction podcast where we throw that out there, and we take this matchup and we break it down. We give the tale of the tape, if you will, about the matchup, everything coming into it, and we preview it and give our predictions of how the game's going to go and the scores as well at that time. And then we have to do a live podcast where we hop on with the Tar Heel Nation and the Hill Brother family, and we have a good time with them, talk Tar Heels, talk all the different topics, not just football, maybe something big going on like the Dean Dome for North Carolina potentially being gone in the next few years. We'll see. A lot of cool things is going on, and we just like to hang out and give our viewers the best content possible.
Awesome. Well, Nathan, thanks for spending some of your Sunday night. Hope to maybe possibly run into you when we make the trip down to UNC this weekend. Group of us are heading down there. We'll message you offline and see if we can make that happen. But thanks again, and we look forward to being on your show tomorrow night. And wish you good luck this week and the rest of the way.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
All right. And with that, we're going to get to our final thoughts segment, guys. Really great discussion tonight. Really appreciate the men's soccer players sharing their voice. And then Phil Cockrell, man, talk about traditions and what he brought to helping to make Bridgeford Stadium and our trips on the road a little extra special. But also that streamer tradition is what put JMU in the eyes of a lot of people around the country. Know that, hey, that's that streamer school. And it's still pretty special, even if there are still some people who are a little prickly about it. But we won't hesitate to hold on that much longer. Michael, I'll start with you. Kind of your final thoughts. This is a big week. Last week for JMU football was kind of a self-evaluation period. I thought the players and Coach Chesney were very direct in saying this week needed to be about them, figuring out what's the best lineup, but also cleaning up some things that they were very candid in their remarks saying needed to be better. Where's your head at in terms of your final thoughts heading into a game that, look, it's a statement game. It could go either way in terms of what message we send to the country and what message we send to the Sun Belt.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, it was a good week to kind of like relax as a fan base, because I think we over-indexed a little bit to maybe certain positions and maybe overly critical about certain positions, particularly on the offensive side where maybe they were better than we thought. But I think using sort of like Dobbs and Chesney, some commentary after the Gardner-Webb game, Gardner-Webb played with no abandon and nothing to lose. They had nothing to lose playing JMU, so they played that way. And I hope that, aside from the self-evaluation, personally on my end, finding who our top 22 players are and seeing them gel on the field, is we play like we got nothing to lose. I love what Nathan said about, the new defensive scheme. They played without rocks in their shoes or whatever he said. I think that was great. I'd love to see our defense just fly around, see the ball and hit the ball. I want to see our offense be confident on where the ball's going to go and be confident on the lanes that are going to be open up and just run with purpose and passion. And I think that's what we're missing. And I get it. We're figuring it out. It's a brand new team, brand new staff, brand new line of communication, but it's an opportunity to play with no abandon, right? We got nothing to lose against UNC. I think we opened up a 10-point underdog possibly, I think, for Saturday. I don't really look at lines or such, but we have a major opportunity to come together as a program, as a team, and to your point, make a statement. So really excited about Saturday. Early kickoff, which is always weird. It's probably going to be hot down there. I'm glad it's week 4, so maybe it's maybe cooler than years past. For all the folks going, for folks that have been there before, the guest side is right in the sun. So prepare for it. Bring the sunscreen, bring the water in quotes, or whatnot. Be careful. It's going to be an exciting time, and I'm looking forward to Saturday.
Awesome. Taylor, looking forward to seeing you for your first game of the season in person. I feel like it's been forever since we've been in the same place. The one thing I know we've talked about offline and some conversations, as a group that we've talked is early on this college football season, there's been some crazy outcomes. This JMU, yes, it's a program that's still figuring it out, but it seems like 75% of the teams in the country might not know exactly what they have. And I know that's something that's been in the forefront of your mind as you've not only looked at JMU, but have looked at all the, matchups across the group of 5 and as well as the Power 5 schools that are all trying to navigate this new world of roster turmoil and roster upheaval that happens as we go throughout the year.
Yeah, I echo what Michael said. I think I'm so excited for this game in Chapel Hill because we still don't know who this team is. We still don't really know at what level they're competing at this year. And John, you and I talked a little offline about, I know that UVA is an ACC school and all of that, but they weren't a good team last year. And so the way that we struggled to beat them, we didn't look good against Bucknell. We were going into that Troy game 2-0, and Troy is not UNC, but Troy was looking to contend for the Sun Belt Championship. And I was like, man, we're going on the road. It's Troy. We just haven't looked sharp. Jordan was still like maybe kind of probably going to be the starter, but you didn't really know where. And so I didn't really have a good feeling going into the Troy game. But at the same time, still thought that there was a lot of opportunity in front of us, especially because we started 2-0. I mean, if you're 2-0, I don't care if it's 2-0 against the two worst teams or 2-0 against the worst best teams. Like I said last week, every goal is still in front of you. And you were talking about like the college football landscape, specifically the Sun Belt. There's just no rhyme or reason some of these scores that you've seen out of the Sun Belt, because I don't even know who really is the dominant team. I mean, I looked at Arkansas State. I mean, they hung tough. They lost by 10 to Michigan, but that was after struggling against Central Arkansas in week 1. You look at Coastal, Jacksonville State, not very good. William & Mary, not very good. And they handled them. Then they go and struggle against a 0-3 Temple team who has not been very good the last few years. App State get blown out by Clemson. Then they get down early 16-0 at ECU. I think in that Slack chat that we have, I said, gosh, man, App State's just not good this year. They're going to lose to Liberty, aren't they? And then sure enough, they come storming back and beat what I think is probably going to be a pretty decent ECU team in the American. Old Dominion, I mean, they should have won that South Carolina game if they had not turned the ball over at the end of the game and played ECU tough and then get blown out by Virginia Tech. I know they have quarterback troubles and everything there. Georgia State struggles against Chattanooga, then beats, like Michael said, the Hokie Killers in Vanderbilt yesterday. And then Texas State. I mean, everyone's talking about, they might make the college football playoff, and they looked like it against Arizona State. But in week 1, they could barely beat Lamar. So while I think a lot of JMU fans, there is reason to have concern. There's reason to think, that we still haven't answered all the question marks on this team. There's also a lot of reason to still have that preseason optimism. I mean, I basically am going into this Chapel Hill game the same way I was going into week 1 at Charlotte I know we have a great coaching staff. I know on paper we have the players to compete at the top of the Sun Belt and the top of the G5. It's just, can we put it all together and can we execute? And I think with the bye week, I think 2 weeks of game film on everybody, Michael made a good point of trying to figure out who are those 22 guys. That's what I'm feeling going to Chapel Hill. So I don't have a sense of arrogance going into Chapel Hill, like, oh, we should beat this team. But I have an air of optimism because I know what we have on paper. I know the coaching staff that we have. I'm excited to see how we put it together. And like I said last week, this game does not make the season, but it will set the tone for kind of what is the season going to look like going forward. I hope we give them a good game. I think we can beat them. But, we just got to have some guys step up in some of the key roles.
Well, I just want to make a point of what you just said is I think the key there is that, for me, it's easy as a JMU fan to get tunnel visioned on the sky is falling. We haven't figured it out, but I do think it is important perspective. And again, this is where people call me an optimist and a homer, and it's okay. I am. But before you fire off that tweet saying, oh my God, this staff hasn't figured it out. Again, it seems like 75% of the staffs in the country have figured out some things, but are really a work in progress in others, because again, we've never seen this level of roster turmoil ever before in any of our lives. This was a record-breaking year for the transfer portal. And as we said in our first preview show, we suspected that this would be a team and a roster that would grow over time. But, the arc of progress is not always straight. You're going to take some steps back to take some steps forward. I really believe that's the case. I don't think that's cliche. I just think it's going to be part of what we're going to experience. And I do think that's when you separate yourself just from JMU, you're going to continue to see some wild outcomes. And it's probably what's going to make the Sun Belt season so exciting is that, as cliche as it is it's a gauntlet. It really is, because there's no easy game. Who on this schedule, when you look at the Sun Belt, is the team that you're like, okay, well, that's an automatic win. I don't think Louisiana now going to that trip is as easy as we thought it was going to be early in the season. So there's just a lot of moving pieces of this, and I'm confident. My one thing before I get to Steve, do we see Tajee Hudson for this game for the first time this season? What does that do to the offense? And I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about what he could bring to this roster in terms of the type of receiver he is and the type of player he is. Steve, I know you follow the trenches. That's kind of the area that you focus on a lot. A daunting task ahead of us. for our defense. So trying to stop what's one of the best running backs, not only in all of college football, but might be one of the better running backs when he makes his way into the National Football League someday. He's going to make a name for himself. Just kind of your thoughts going into this matchup, or anything else you want to touch on.
Well, I like the fact that our coaching staff has been working on how to stop him, or at least how to slow him down. You may not stop him, but we'll slow him down. And I can tell you the Tar Heel song is I'm Tar Heel bred. I guess I'm Tar Heel born. I'm Tar Heel bred. And when I die, I'll be Tar Heel dead. Rah, rah, Carolina, rah, rah, Carolina, rah, rah, Carolina, go to Hell State. The only thing we agree with you on is the go to Hell State. And you're going to have a tough time with this JMU team on Saturday. I think, in borrowing one of the things that Michael throws in, and it's a wrestling mantra, this will be a slobber knocker. We've got the dudes to do it, and they do. And I think you're going to see a team. That's why I mentioned it to Nathan. You could kind of see his face. I think he thinks it as well. This is going to go deep into the fourth quarter. Nobody's going to blow anybody out. We're ready for this. This is what these guys will step up to. They've had, the week and a half now to work through it. I
Had we lose Steve there.
It's
well,
coming back.
There you
It
go.
came back. So I think we're bred to do it. I think this is what we play for. I agree with Taylor. Last year we went to Troy. I didn't have a lot of worries going into Troy. I thought we would play well, but I thought it would be a slobber knocker, and it was. And I think this is what it's going to be at Carolina. This is not going to be a 56-28, 42-10, or 37-14 game for them. I don't know if we'll win or lose it. I don't know. But I can tell you, I think it's a 50-50 shot here. And that doesn't normally happen going into one of those games. But I think we'll bring a lot of purple, and I think a noon game is bad for them. It's a little bit rainy, potentially rainy. They're not going to bring their people out early. They're not early people. We'll have a pretty good hold on that stadium. Now, they'll have a bunch of people there, but so will we. So I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a good game. They're great people to tailgate with. They're a good group of folks. But at the end of the day, I got us pulling this thing out. Not going to be by a ton, but I got us winning this game.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I think my key position I want to watch, there's going to be a lot of focus on the run game. How does our secondary hold up when you're stacking a lot of guys in the box? I think you're going to see some man coverage at points in the game, and they could go 6, 7, 8 plays without seeing a big pass play, but then they're going to have to be on when the moment shines. So looking for a big game from Chauncey Logan and the rest of the secondary. Thomas in the secondary as well, and from the safety position is going to have a big game for us to be successful on Saturday. But yeah, obviously looking forward to seeing everyone down in Chapel Hill. But guys, another great episode, and just grateful for all of our guests for joining us. Did want to make a couple of last shout outs though to our sponsors. First and foremost, again, please check out the Montpelier Collective opportunity for homecoming. If you're interested in bringing 20 of your friends to watch the game on the sideline, we're going to have an opportunity for you that will be auctioned off at Friday Night Flights. If you can't make it to Friday Night Flights, contact the Montpelier Collective at montpeliercollective.com. You can make your bid remotely and have a chance to win that opportunity. I want to also give a shout out to your Purple Nation. Again, we mentioned the store that opened up in Northern Virginia. That is in Sterling, South Lake. It is at the Dulles Landing Shopping Center off of Route 50. That's a new location. Want to make sure that is successful. So if you're a JMU fan in Northern Virginia that hasn't had a chance to make your way over to there yet, please do. Let's please support Carol Benassi. Please support that store and make sure that if you're in Nova, you can get JMU gear for years to come. And as always, you can continue to get that gear online at yourpurplenation.com. Thank you to our friends from Skyline Financial. They'll be back next week with the Player of the Week. As well as Where's Woody, Talent Corps, and our friends from Shoker Enterprises. And with that, guys, all safe travels to everyone down to North Carolina. And hopefully next week we're talking after another JMU win. And with that, we'll see you later in the week for some other additional content we'll be putting out, as well as when we make the trip down to North Carolina. Stay tuned to all of our accounts for updates from JMU Sound Off. And with that, good night. Go Dukes.